Auzubillahiminash-shaytanir-rajeem. Bismillahir-rahmanir-rahim. Assalamualaikum. Ji ayanu pakhairagale ni hao chunushumme washmale. Ohio gozaima's guten Morgen. Hola, boyo, privyet, kaifa hal? Hale shuma chatore, ahlan wa sahlan, marhaba. Buna, mucho gracias, swabi, balli kare aya. Hoş geldin and ayasayo kuya morachi matochi aljod. Kalimera khair utar. And a very warm welcome to everybody who's tuned into PTV1 and are watching World this morning. Alongside my very well-learned colleague who happens to be Miss Haja Satti. I happen to be Shahzad Hasan Khan, and we hope and pray that everybody out there is doing wonderfully well and that you're ready to kickstart your week with us. But first things first, hello Haja, assalamu alaikum. How are you feeling today?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you so much, Jazakallah khair, for asking me, and especially on this Monday morning, because we are trying to be very positive. But I think there is a huge population problem, and especially the urbanization that has been going on. And we will further develop our conversation, but we want to move on to a very, I would say, like a top mentioned story, which is the nationwide Day of the Solidarity will be observed today to express solidarity with the innocent Palestinians who are facing the worst Israeli brutalities. Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif has taken this decision during his meeting with Pakistan People's Party Chairman Bilawal Bhutto Zardari and Jamaat-e-Islami Amir Hafiz Naeem-ur-Rahman in Islamabad. Prime Minister will also host an all-parties conference to raise a voice against the ongoing oppression of unarmed Palestinians in Gaza and to support the Palestinian brothers and sisters. And I think the onus is on us as Muslims to make sure that our voice is heard, especially at the global forum, for those Palestinians who are totally unarmed and they are being murdered, they are being decimated, they are being eradicated just because of their identity.
Exactly. And Haja, in addition to this, I think that it was wonderful to see how our Prime Minister actually walked out when Netanyahu came to speak on UNGA as well. And I think, ladies and gentlemen, in days to come, may it be Kashmir, may it be Palestine, Pakistan will stand in solidarity every single day in the coming years as well. But moving on from here, there's another thing which I would love to kind of appreciate of our Premier, the Honorable Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif Saab, how he congratulates all of those athletes, who are coming to Pakistan. Earlier it was Ashar Nadeem, and this time around Prime Minister Shahbaz Sharif Saab has congratulated mountaineer Sarbaz Khan on becoming the first Pakistani to summit all 14 height peaks of the world. In a post on social media platform X, he said the nation is immensely proud of Sarbaz Khan for his remarkable feat of becoming the first Pakistani to summit all 14 of the world's highest peaks. Congratulations, Sarbaz. He said the achievement shows his resilience, courage and commitment in the face of heaviest of the odds. The Prime Minister said the heroic achievement of Sarbaz Khan will inspire a generation of climbers to establish their mettle in mountaineering. Sarbaz actually started off as a T-boy at 11 years old.
And I think this is a perfect success story and inspiration that we seek. And I think moving on to another very success story and a boxer who is bringing a good name to Pakistan. So Pakistani wrestler Atar Zahid won the international championship title by defeating the Indian wrestler in Nepal. Atar Zahid has won the title of the international heavyweight champion by defeating India's Singham Dubey. Wrestlers from all over the world even participated in the international wrestling events, and we are very glad that we are having these sort of events in which Pakistani boxers, be it their wrestlers, they are coming up and making sure that they are bringing the good name to the country. And so now moving on to, because it happens to be the first Monday of this month of the October, and it is the World Habitat Day, and the theme of this day is engaging youth to create a better urban future. And I also alluded to the fact that because of the urbanization, there is a dire need to control this population problem. And according to United Nations, by 2050, 70% of the world population will move towards the urban centers, and that will create a heavy load on the urban centers. And I think that is also coming from a very personal tone, because I've lived all my life in Islamabad. I grew up here, and we've seen that Islamabad used to be very clean, very green. It has lots of forests, but because of the mushrooming growth of the housing societies, we've seen that there is an immense pressure on the forestry of this area, and we've seen because of that how the temperatures are rising. So to further talk upon that and to elaborate, how government is making sure that they give the easy, accessible housing to the people out there and how to control the pressures of urbanization, we are very glad that we have been joined by a very esteemed guest who happens to be Dr. Jasim Anwar. He's a health sector specialist, but he also is working in the Ministry for the Planning, Development and Special Initiatives. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Jasim, and thank you so much for joining us.
Assalamu alaikum ji, and thank you so much for having me in your show.
Wonderful to have
It's
you. First
wonderful.
of all, your signals might be immaculate because the picture quality of yours is just magnificent to get started with. But first things first,
Right.
Dr. Saab, let's just explain to our, viewers in 47 different countries, what is it designed for the entire day, World Habitat Day, when we speak about it, what is the entire motive behind celebrating or observing this day?
Well, we have to see in three different layers. One is what international community is doing and other UN agencies are doing, what the government of Pakistan has adopted, and what the people and the implementation in the provinces are going on. So while this is a policy dimension that I will talk about, another aspect is the consequences of the urbanization and its effect. So I will, take you back to 1994 when the first ever international conference for population development was, held in 1994. It was organized by United Nations, and in that it was a declaration signed by all the member states that they will work on the 13 areas to, have managed population. Which includes creating opportunities for the rural areas through employment generation, through ease of communication, and through connectivity. So this goes on and on and on, and now we reaching about, it's called ICPD 30. And this year, our Prime Minister in the United Nations on 27th September also, covered this aspect of population and development.
Dr.
So
Joseph,
globally, it is
further to this
recognized. Pakistan is
conversation.
part of the movement. Uh, Now, how the government is translating those international treaties and also taking care of our people and their needs. Our strategic framework that the Planning Commission has developed is called 5E Framework of Government of Pakistan, which was conceived and envisioned by Honorable Minister for Planning, SN, Professor SN Iqbal Saab.
What
This
are the five
has
E's, sir? What are the five E's?
one is environment, other is equity, then is uh, E Pakistan, then another one is energy. So one more, I'm not really, I'm
Probably all the
forgetting it.
stakeholders which
Sir,
we
so
really
to
require.
further develop this conversation further, and we've seen that there is a global movement when we talk about the liberal projects, where when we talk about the urbanization, so the first thing that comes into mind is the very flashy malls out there, and there are very clean cities out there. But in this entire scenario, the people who are the dealers, people are the hawkers who are living in the ghettos, they're not included in that very flashy and modern sort of the city landscapes that I would say, right? So what is the government doing, particularly if I talk about the Islamabad, to cater and provide adequate, affordable and accessing housing to those communities who are marginalized, who are also the part of the city but are considered somehow a lesser children of that? And we've seen that how because of this bureaucratic red tapeism, there's a lot of effort to, delegitimize their existence from the city. How are we catering to them?
That's the
The
first
first
E,
question,
equity.
the first important is that we need to understand why this issue is arising. I mean, when there's a lack of opportunities in the urban areas, or when, in the rural areas, and when the people are not having access to, affordable and a good quality living, then they move to the city areas to find these opportunities, and then these kind of problems arise. Well, it's a very difficult balance between how we create an environment, a habitat which is clean, which is cheap and affordable. It is directly related to the people buying power or GDP, and the current situation that we are facing. The IMF package we saw on, and the very very energy prices are very high. Government, I can't speak on the behalf of the ICT administration or anyone, but as far as I know, the policies are all in line with creating urbanization in a through planned way, so that we are all connected to all the provinces, all the regions through a cheap transportation, green, clean energy transportation. So
Exactly.
if that is, yeah, please.
Dr. Saab, in addition to this, obviously we got this point as well because we're short on time. So very quickly, I think one of the most important aspects of habitat is to develop, economy within the urbanized areas as well. So, where you spoke about how people actually migrate from one place to another, don't you think when we talk about connectivity within provinces and cities, we really need to invest in provinces and the areas?
You're right. I mean, creating an urban ecosystem within a city, it's directly related to the implementation of bylaws of the certain cities. Whereas in Pakistan, we have, including Islamabad, all the urban structures, how they should, the sectors are performed, how the communication needs to be done. The question here comes is how all these laws are implemented, including having a sufficient green spaces, different levels of economies, different level of residences, different level of all these places. So implementation here, people needs to be educated and work with the government to make sure that these bylaws are also implemented. I mean, we can't do forcefully all the
True.
things.
Thank you so much. Thank you
Yes.
so much, Dr. Saab. Thank you so much for being with us. Thank you so much for your time. And it's all about the implementation of the bylaws. You've mentioned it, that the policy is already in place. Thank you so much for your time. And I do believe, I've always been an avid believer that Professor Ahsan Iqbal Sahab has got that vision, alhamdulillah. And whenever he's taken over the ministry, he's always made sure that he introduces such policies. But with this policy, there's another problem with urbanization. And with urbanization, we do see how we've compromised on cleanliness or hygiene of the cities as well.
Right.
Unfortunately, we have
Especially
seen
the third world countries, right?
exactly, especially we have seen in Punjab, when the now Prime Minister was the Chief Minister, then how they were, campaigns to make sure that people were more aware about dengue, and then the sprays were done and whatnot. So I think we really need to deal with it effectively, and it's because of the fact just in Islamabad, there are 1,613 cases of dengue fever. Why are we getting that? What's the problem? How can we actually protect ourselves are the questions which we will be asking from this very amazing guest that we have over here inside the studios. Hajra, why don't you do the honor? So these are the symptoms of dengue fever: nausea, vomiting, fatigue. We will be continuing with that, but we have Dr. Saib over here to answer this.
Without any further ado, we are very glad that we have been joined by Dr. Naseem Akhtar. She is the HOD of the infectious diseases at the PIMS, Islamabad. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Saib, and thank you so much for coming to our show.
Salam. Thank you very much.
So, Dr. Saiba, let's unfold our conversation. Dengue is on the rise in Islamabad. Why is it so, and what can we do to make sure that we are protected from this virus?
Thank you very much. Very important and relevant topic you have selected right
That's what
in
we
the
do
middle
every
of
time.
the epidemic,
That's what we're known for, mashallah. Yeah, please.
Yeah. So, dengue fever is basically, common in tropical and subtropical areas, and Pakistan is among those countries where the temperature is favorable for the breeding
Machhar
of the
to survive.
mosquitoes. Yeah.
कोई करे ना करे मच्छर तो कर जाएगा.
मच्छर तो करेगा. So dengue fever is basically caused by the mosquito bite, and this is a female mosquito bite.
Alright.
And the mosquito is different from the common mosquitoes which spread malaria. That is Culex.
Right.
So the dengue mosquito is usually the Aedes aegypti or Aedes albopictus, and both of these species of mosquitoes are quite common, and they
But
need
it's
a
okay, yeah.
specific environment for their breeding.
Right.
And
What
there
is that
are
environment?
it is, as I mentioned, that they need a favorable temperature, number one.
Right.
The temperature is usually between 25 to 30 degrees centigrade.
Okay.
And the time period for the breeding season for these mosquitoes in Pakistan is usually it starts from September, October, and it goes up till November.
Right,
So the extremes of temperature, the mosquitoes usually do not survive. If the temperature is beyond 40 degrees centigrade, the mosquitoes, they tend to die.
Right, right.
So
But that's one thing that I've always realized. For example, earlier there was a time when I used to turn on my air conditioner in the house, and I could feel as if they were mosquitoes, they would run away, because the
Yeah,
temperature
that's
dropped.
right.
लेकिन
That's
अब तो
right.
इतना ढीठ मच्छर आ रहा है, आप एसी जितना मर्जी तेज कर लो, कहीं नहीं जा रहा, वो
कपड़ों के
वही.
ऊपर से काटते हैं.
Yeah,
right?
yeah. So
They have
sometimes they
resilience in
hide
them.
themselves.
Yeah.
They hide themselves in under
I think they're
the
mutating as well.
beds
They're
or
getting stronger. But now let's come back to the female mosquito have now bitten you. And what are the symptoms of dengue? For example, if there are people who are listening to us, please go ahead, share them with us.
The fever which is caused by dengue mosquito bite or by the dengue virus is called breakbone fever, because it causes severe body aches, myalgias, muscle aches and pains, severe headache, and usually patients complain of pain behind the eyes. This is called retroorbital pain, and sometimes severe backache. that because of that the patients they tend to stop working and they lie down, just lie down. So lambe pajo. So it's so bad, it's so bad. And sometimes they have conjunctival erythema, sometimes they have flu-like features like throat pain.
Can it get fatal? Can dengue get fatal?
Very rarely, very rarely. If the mosquito has bitten you and you have got this dengue fever, most of the patients they improve by themselves, and most of the time they remain asymptomatic as well. Very few number of patients they tend to develop features like high grade fever and myalgias, as I have already mentioned. And if they are not managed properly, then they can end up with complications, and sometimes it can become fatal.
And Dr. Saab, once we have been diagnosed with the dengue fever, right, so how do you treat yourself, right? What are the major treatable options that are available for the patient?
There is no specific treatment for dengue fever. The disease is a viral illness, and it is usually self-limiting. You don't need anything. But there are few important points to keep in mind. Like if you are confirmed with having dengue fever, just take rest, adequate fluids. I would suggest that everyone should take at least 100 ml of fluid per hour to keep themselves hydrated, because most of the complications appear because of dehydration. And then they should avoid taking certain medications, or they should avoid self-medication, I would say. They should not take the drugs like brufen or other non-steroidal anti-inflammatory drugs, because platelets tend to decrease during the course of illness. So these medicines, they usually help or reduce
and you are
the
saying
platelet
that
count.
antibiotics should not be used because they can
Of
inflame,
course, because it's a viral illness.
And
We don't need antibiotics for that. Just like for COVID, it
Yeah.
was a viral illness, and we used to use a lot of antibiotics for that.
Thank you so much for saying that, because I want people to understand that. See, when we say that it's a viral illness, that means that we are not sure what treatment we can give to that treatment. I mean, there's no treatment which exists for it. So when we say it's viral, so doctors actually get away with that. I'm very sorry that I'm saying that. Doctor साहब मुझे क्या हो गया? आपको viral हो गया. That means that we do not know what medication will actually help you, but certainly we will have a plan for you. So speaking about that, there's a bit of myth busting that I need to do, because you just spoke about the platelets will go down. So when we speak about the platelets, don't you think that it can get dangerous for people, and how often do we need to get the blood test done? So how do we keep an eye on whether what's happening?
Very important question. First message which I want to convey is that whenever you get fever, particularly during this season when dengue is on rise, always get tested. The tests are very simple, they are cheaper, and within 2 hours or 3 hours you get the results. And you can know that whether you are suffering from dengue or malaria or anything else. So this is the simplest way. And the second thing is, once you have acquired the infection, then you should keep an eye on the warning signs. And what are those warning signs? Yes. Number one, bleeding from the gums and teeth, or from anywhere from the body, like blood in the sputum, blood in the urine, or if you have small petechial rash, which means your platelet count is going down. So this is important. And second thing is that if you have persistent vomiting, that is vomiting which is not controllable at home, or you have severe abdominal pain, or you think you are feeling extremely weak and you are lethargic and you are unable to get up and you feel dizzy whenever you get up, it means that you are either dehydrated or there is some other complication which have arisen. So you must go to the doctor and get yourself tested.
So these are the warning signs, and if we are saying that it's not really fatal, even in PIMS only, I think we have 300 or more patients with dengue fever. Why do you think that these patients needs to be hospitalized if it's not fatal?
Yeah, very important, because once you are diagnosed with dengue, you should keep an eye on your platelet count. Because during the critical phase of illness, the platelet tend to decline and the hematocrit rises, which indicates that the disease is active, and this is the critical phase. And this is the time period which lasts for 48 to 72 hours approximately. This is the time where most of the patients, they need admission. As I mentioned, majority they improve themselves, but if there is rapid decline in the platelet count, and particularly I would say if the platelet count goes down to 50,000, you should go to the hospital and get yourself tested whether you need admission or not. The doctor would examine you, would see what are the risk factors like extremes of the ages, very younger children, adults, pregnant ladies, and those who are having bleeding disorders. They must need admission, because we need to check their platelet counts very closely.
Dr. Saiba, just adding to this conversation, there is a very important point, and I have seen that menace is a global menace, which is that we have seen that the resistance that is developing to the antibiotics, right? So we have seen how do you think we can tackle this phenomena, because the germs, the viruses, they are very intelligent in their nature, right, and they are mutating, and obviously we are nurturing this virus within, right, by blunt and selfless prescription of those, antibiotics over the counter prescriptions. How can we deal with that, and also plays into the conversation we are having regarding dengue awareness?
Very right, you pointed out. We always keep on, emphasizing on the fact that viral diseases are managed by antivirals or they are self-limited.
Yep.
And the bacterial infections are treated by antibacterials.
Right.
And parasitic infections are treated by antiparasites. So why we are not,
Educating people.
educating
Yeah.
people.
But if someone does get a fever, what sort of, medicine you will prescribe
Panadol.
to that patient,
Panadol,
right?
yes, perfect, perfect. Because this is the only remedy which you can offer to yourself at home, and do not think that someone in your home is suffering from dengue and you would also be suffering from dengue.
Right.
This can be different from the other.
Right,
Similarly, the antibiotics or antiviral which are prescribed to someone else, it doesn't mean they are going to work on you as well.
True.
Because there are so many diseases which are very closely related to each other,
So a person-
like malaria, dengue, typhoid,
Oh,
various
yes.
other illnesses. They initially present exactly the same way the
Same,
dengue
alright.
presents.
And obviously you need to get your test done as well. But very quickly, I think you've touched upon a very important point, because in some parts of the country this conversation might be going on. If I have dengue, unfortunately, can I pass it on to somebody? No?
It's very
contagious?
difficult, but usually what happens is that
हो सकता है ये नहीं, पहले ये बता दें.
yes, it is possible,
It's
because a
possible.
mosquito, if a mosquito which does not carry a virus bites you
And
and
then
you are
they're-
having dengue,
Yeah.
then that mosquito will carry that virus, and that virus will take some time in the body of the mosquito where it will pass on through different
यानी
stages.
हम भी
and
मच्छर को बीमार कर सकते हैं.
then yes, the mosquito bite from human to human is basically responsible for transmission of dengue. Otherwise, if I touch a patient with dengue, or if I just sit nearby the patient of dengue, this disease is not contagious in
Okay.
that context.
Yeah.
So this is vector-borne illness. This is not
Okay,
transmitted
got
from human to human just by
Contact,
It's not
contact,
sharing
or
the
sharing.
things,
Exactly.
Okay.
Because COVID was different. That
Yeah,
was a
yeah.
respiratory virus,
Yes.
and this is not a respiratory virus. This is a vector-borne illness.
And
That
doc-
should be kept in mind.
Right, and Dr. Saiba, so it's not contagious, you made it very clear. So if someone has already diseases, right, his immune system is weak, how dangerous can be this dengue fever for that person, and what does that person need to do to protect himself or herself for this?
Very, very important question, because we have to work on 3 areas. Number one is that we must educate ourselves, we must educate the masses, because behavior change, attitude and knowledge, all of these 3 are very closely linked towards controlling any of the problems
Yes,
across the world,
absolutely,
not only the diseases.
Yeah.
And the second thing is that we should focus on prevention, because prevention is always better than suffering from the illness and then spending money on that, and then harboring our quality of life.
Yep.
And then it takes about 2 to 3 weeks, I would say 4 weeks, to completely recover from dengue. So it causes a lot of impact on your quality of life, on money, on wastage of time, which is very, very important.
Exactly.
So how to prevent it? Number one, we should know that how it is transmitted, because the virus usually is transmitted by the mosquito bite, number
Yep.
one. So we must apply mosquito repellents. We should avoid walking outside houses without any necessary tasks, like early in the morning or in the evening when the mosquito bites are common.
Alright.
And we should wear the clothes which are full sleeve and which are covering most of the parts of the body, and the exposed parts of the body, they should be we should be applying mosquito repellents.
Yep.
We should use the nets at home, and we should keep the windows closed.
Exactly.
And
जाली
we
वाले
should-
दरवाजे लगवा लें.
जाली वाले दरवाजे लगा लें, और then we should avoid storing water at home, and it should not be uncovered, like in the flower pots, in the vases, and especially in the areas where junks are stored at the backyard of your home.
पता
There
लगे
are
लोगों ने
multiple
नहाना ही
things,
छोड़ दिया.
especially at the workshops where tires are there, and whenever the rain comes, the water
Yeah.
water
Stored.
is it is stagnant water. The stagnant water is a place where the
But they used to
mosquitoes
say-
they breed themselves.
breeding
Yeah.
ground.
Breeding grounds,
Dr.
yes.
Saiba, which population in Islamabad in Pakistan is most vulnerable to this onslaught of dengue fever, in your opinion? Because there are a lot of patients that are coming to your hospital, right? And if you have done some research on that, which areas you would highlight, so we
Some
can
of the areas have been pointed out by
Right.
our surveillance teams
Right.
in Islamabad.
Right.
And I would say that the areas where their population is dense, and as you were talking about urbanization, because most of the people are moving to the places where
crowded spaces, they're living in crowded spaces.
So the areas which has been identified are Koral,
Okay.
Tarlai, Rawat, Barakahu, and many more areas. Similarly, in Islamabad, H13 and G13 and then
Right.
E11
Right.
and various other sectors. Few of the cases are reported from F6, F8, G9.
Right.
So these are the
And I think
places.
majority of the places that you mentioned over here does not really actually keep a good hygiene around people's people where they live actually, so you
But-
may
but
it be
Shahzad,
Karal Chowk, may it be anywhere else.
the
We've
problem
seen so
is
much dirt
the-
over there, pani khada hai.
The problem is that it is breeding in a very clean water now. So even
Yes.
if you have a very hygienic water, it is
Even
still
then,
breeding there,
even
right?
then, so
Yeah, yeah.
we must avoid stagnant water anywhere.
Right. And what sort of, very quickly, what sort of measures can government take to prevent this onslaught of diseases? I mean, we do see that there are some spray sort of, cars coming in, but apart from that, what can we do that?
Yeah, the government is focusing more on surveillance and data
Okay.
collection, and at the same time the dengue response is quite quick.
Right.
The teams go to the places where the larvae are breeding. Even they are identifying the larva breeding places, and they do the sprays over there. And similarly, indoor and outdoor sprays both are being done by the teams. And similarly, education, they are also educating the masses at the same time.
Right.
That we must be
And
because-
that's exactly what we're doing as well. But thank you so
Exactly.
much, Dr. Saiba, for
Thank you
being with
so
us.
much.
Lovely to be in conversation with you, ladies and gentlemen. Take notes, please. Make sure or probably watch the program in repeat. It'll be there as well. So for now, we're actually heading out towards a short break. Don't go anywhere. And you guys will come back. You remember, how Captcha used to kind of ask us if you're a robot or not. Well, people have gotten smarter, and artificial intelligence have gotten way smarter than people. After a short break. Good morning.
Good morning. Welcome back, and today happens to be 7th of October 2024, and it is also World Cotton Day. And why is there even a need to have observed this very interesting day? So World Cotton Day is being celebrated today with the theme Cotton for Good. And this day is marked on every 7th of October. The United Nations wants to raise the visibility of the cotton sector and awareness of the critical role that it plays in the economic development, international trade and poverty alleviation. The observance also aims to highlight the importance of sustained, inclusive and sustainable economic growth, full and productive employment and decent work for all. And obviously, Pakistan being an agricultural country, we cannot deny the importance of cotton and how it is contributing particularly towards the textile sector. And Pakistani cotton is no doubt one of the best cotton, and especially it is exported to the world. It is a cash crop, I would like to say, because it brings a lot of cash. We also need to make sure that the cotton farmers are supported in every way, including when we talk about
and the cash cow of the agriculture industry as well. But with that, ladies and gentlemen, just before heading out towards a short break, I told you that there was a time. Even now, when we log on to different websites, there's this Captcha which tells us how many red lights do you see, how many buses do you see, just to see if we are robots or not. I imagine that a team of students, from a university actually made sure that they're going to outsmart that system and to speak about, the dangers of artificial intelligence. I'm very lucky I've been joined by somebody from my university. He happens to be Dr. Imran Ehsan Sahab, Associate Professor and Chair, Department of Creative Technologies, Faculty of Computing and Artificial Intelligence, A University, Islamabad. Assalamu alaikum, Dr. Sahab, how are you?
Walaikum assalam. Thank you for having me.
It's a an absolute player. So now we have seen that Captcha is a no robot proof, right? Because artificial intelligence has solved it, and that too with the 100% accuracy, right? So is it a thing for the concern, because robots can go without the Captcha system, artificial intelligence can go, it can increase the prices of any concert ticket because it can cross that. How do you see this entire development? How dangerous is this?
Look, this is not the first time that it's happening. Actually, when the first Captcha came out to be the first version of the Captcha, that came out into 2004, and at that particular time, there was just this distorted text lines and text images that were there, and we have to guess what the text is written, and the computers were not intelligent enough to figure it out. But in 2014, the things changed. The artificial intelligence was to guess 100% accuracy of those images. We tried to make the images more and more difficult with the passage of time in these 10 years. But in 2014, the AI was able to 100% guess that particular text, what it is written. But the humans were only doing 33% of that. So then they came up with the second version of the Captcha, which is called the reCAPTCHA, in which there were images at that particular time. Yes, there was not that much of an advancement in computer vision and everything, so the Captcha was working pretty good. And we have to figure out what are the traffic lights and what are the stairs, and then where are these pavements, or etc. But now, yes, you are right that the new generative AI.
If that famous security test has been superseded by the artificial intelligence, you think that can be a very flourishing ground, a breeding ground for the misinformation, for the fake information, fake news, I would like to say, and disinformation, right? So how can we make sure that we build up walls to stop the menace of misinformation, disinformation and fake news, because we've seen this is a problem that has affected the global community, especially the digital communities?
No, actually, this Captcha was there to control all this, and the Captcha is still here. The Captcha has changed the format. This particular second version of the Captcha is now obsolete, yes, because the AI can now 100% accurately guess that. But now this Captcha has gone invisible. Now you don't have to go and check those check boxes that I am a human or not. Or are you a robot, or this thing. But now it has gone invisible. Now there is a new technique going on. The Google has launched V3 of the Captcha in 2018, and now they're working on it. And now there is no need for that. Now they only check your behavior when you are working on a website, how your mouse moves, how you are actually interacting with certain things, and give the probabilistic measures of that. And once you get the probabilistic measures of that, then you can figure it out. I mean, the humans.
Isn't that even more dangerous, because there is a complete surveillance on the human behavior, right? And this should be a source of concern for all of those digital right activists, who are constantly advocating for having a freedom, for having an integrity. I mean, how to develop a good filter that can stop the influx of this artificial intelligence bots, chatbots, which are flooding the the news information, or maybe any website, but at the same time respecting the privacy and not being very intrusive in the digital behaviors.
The privacy is the biggest issue, and you have been discussing it for a very long time now. There's the privacy in different areas, and even the big companies getting the information, what you search, with your browser history. Now, yes, the concern is more bigger now, because now the new Captcha also includes your browser history and your social media history. And before figuring it out, are you a human or a robot? Yes, the privacy is the biggest issue that we have. But maybe as everything is growing and everything is changing, the artificial intelligence is changing, so does the web as well. So the Web 2.0 is converting into Web 3.0, which can be more secure and more private and more better for the humans as well. It's also evolving.
But Dr. Saab, there's one more question. See, while we are talking about, what dangers it poses to us, I believe that we really need to kind of give, all of those other people, who might be all about machine learning, who might be all about, adapting, who might be all about automation, and all of these things will actually help. So where do we stand ethically or morally that, okay, you know, one side machine learning, one side automation, complete automation of the entire processes as well. Why do they have to realize that it's a human who's actually operating? Obviously we know about the dangers that it poses, but what about people who actually want to automate it completely?
Yes, the people are working through that, and the companies are working through that to make it completely autonomous and making it completely automatic. Yes, this area is quite far at the moment. There are few companies who have started doing everything on the automatically using machine learning, but there is an ethical line to that. Yes, you are right about it, but this ethical line is not well defined. It is actually what is happening over here is that everyone has their own ethical line. They want to cross it or not. So, as a human, as a person, we need to figure it out where we stand, where we should start working machine learning
Right.
or artificial
And
intelligence.
obviously, thank you so much, Dr. Saab, for shedding light on the new latest development regarding the Captcha. And like I mentioned
Invisible,
before,
yeah.
yes, and like I mentioned before, I think there is a need to develop a filter, probably a good filter where the chatbots, where the artificial intelligence cannot surpass and flood the websites with the false information, disinformation, misinformation.
Or deep
While
fakes.
at the and I think this is very scary because the deep fakes, the deep voices that can imitate the real human voices are being used to defraud or fraud the
Yep.
human, communities out there. So how can we deal with this menace? Obviously, with the passage of time, we will develop the solutions, but we also need to talk when it comes to how to avoid these very intrusive digital behaviors that are also impacting the offline behavior of the human community. So with that, we are wrapping up our show. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, it's a goodbye. Allah Hafiz and
Good morning. Have a great day.